Okay. I wanted to watch one thing while I eat, and then we'll jump into Steak RPG to see if I can catch this soundbite.
The first time I worked on a video game was 30 years ago this year. I spent a day in full makeup and costume. I did the day, and I never heard another word about it. But 30 years later, here we are.
Our studio never had the opportunity to work on such a project that involved so much violence and explicit sexual content. On the other hand, also, we never had the opportunity to work on an IP as big as Hellraiser before.
We instantly got hooked to this specific IP because a lot of our development team members are huge fans of this franchise, and there has never been a game in this universe before, and because of those two factors, it was really like a no-brainer to us.
It was important to me to kind of be the guy that focused things. We had a lot of Hellraiser experts on the team who had read all the books, seen all the movies, read all the comics, really dug deep and absorbed everything that there was about this franchise. But when you've got like this smorgasbord of like existing material that you can draw on to tell a story, I think in some ways it can be a bit limiting, but it can also be a distraction from what made the work great in the first place. Like Hellraiser 1 and Hellraiser 2 and the Hellbound Heart, those are the things that really resonated with people and that made them lifelong fans, and those were the really special things. Everything else was like something that we could dip into if and where it was appropriate.
So the practical effects of the movies were sometimes hard to translate because we are separated by, I would say, decades between technologies, and they were limited by their time. One of the things that we enjoyed making were the electrical effects when Cenobites appear, like those static electricity that appear on them when they pop out. Or, for example, the costumes the actors actually wore. For example, Pinhead, he had like a latex mask. So it was like a challenge to determine what's actually Doug Bradley's face and what was like the makeup and the layers of silicone. So it was like just like trying to balance what was their limitation, what we wanted to achieve with it.
Obviously, it's a little bit easier doing Pinhead for a video game because I get to stand in a sound booth behind a microphone without having to spend 4 hours in makeup first.
Our first priority was to make the game to be Hellraiser, which meant that we need to be explicit, we needed to show violence, we needed to show sex, so all of these things needed to contribute to the game and to make it as true to the franchise as possible.
The way that we started with the design process, for any game, there needs to be a pre-production stage where it is basically the ideation. So we needed to first come up with the ideas that would drive the vision of the game. And finding vision is kind of tricky, especially when you're trying to honor what has already been left to you from Clive Barker's stories. And Hellraiser is not the easiest game to make, I would say. But still, it does leave you some of the elements which are kind of a no-brainer, like the puzzle box. It's literally a puzzle box, which means that it can be gamified or interacted with in some way.
So the game mechanic that we knew that we need in the game based on the franchise and the IP is basically Cenobite powers. Like they're so iconic and unique and awesome in the franchise, and we wanted to give some of them to the players in a strange and unique way.
As we see in the second movie, and it's mentioned in the novella, there have always been a variety of configurations that are present in Hellraiser lore. The Genesis configuration is a different but similar configuration to the Lament, and it has a specific purpose. It can do what the Lament does and call forth the Cenobites and kind of bridge the bridge the two worlds of the real world and the labyrinth, but it also has a role to play in a Cenobite plot. I don't want to say too much more than that, but a Cenobite plot, there's something that Pinhead and his Gash, his order, want to achieve, and the Genesis configuration is made for purpose for that.
What I expected to be doing was, retreading the greatest hits. No tears pleases to waste good suffering, and suffering with legendary even with sights to show you, and tear your soul apart, time to play, and blah, blah, blah. All of that was kind of what I expected to be doing. That, and not necessarily much more. What really surprised me was how much the writers, the game developers had developed. Aiden may be going to find that things are not quite so simple, not quite so straightforward. But I'll leave you to find that out for yourself when you play the game. But the story is strong and it's powerful, and I think people are going to have a lot of fun with it.
That shit looks fire, but fuck a labyrinth. Alright, now let's jump into this game. I'm gonna end the recording and start this shit over again.